Last week, at a location approximately 2 miles east of the interchange of I-10 and the Florence Boulevard, there was a groundbreaking for the Phoenix Mart, a 1.7 million square foot facility. And for those of you that might have trouble visualizing how large a building that big is, let's just say that the commercial hub component of that property is approximately 3 football fields wide and 9 football fields long. The core business concept of the Phoenix Mart is to promote manufacturers and wholesalers internationally, and we're going to hear a lot more details about that, along with the funding as to how that occurred with the EB5 program. So our speakers today are going to come up together. I'm going to introduce them both right now. Gentleman who's been with this project since its infancy about 5 years ago, Jeremy Schoenfelder, and he's going to pronounce his name absolutely correctly, but that's the phonetic pronunciation, and I'm sticking with it, is the COO of Arizona Sourcing LLC and president of the Phoenix Mart. He has given many presentations on lots of panels about this project and the EB5 program, including to the Thunderbird School of Global Management, and also he presented at the City of Peoria's Economic Development and Investment Strategy Conference. Jeremy was a portfolio manager for 2 real estate investment funds where he was involved with the creation of investment strategies and acquisitions. And he recently accepted a board position with the Oslo Center for Peace and Human Rights, a U.S. foundation whose mission is to promote peace initiatives through intercultural and interfaith dialogues in order to prevent conflicts throughout the world. Jeremy holds an advisory board position with the Greater China Corporation, a U.S.-focused company that focuses on industry sectors. And he is a proud graduate of NAU. Speaking along with him will be Stephen Betts, he is, as he introduced himself, president of Channon Construction Company. They are and he leads their new business development in Arizona and markets across the United States. That company was founded in 1955. It's Arizona-based, and it's an award-winning full-service construction and construction management firm. That company has completed more than $10 billion of construction work on landmark projects that include Midwest University campus in Glendale, Sky Harbor International Airport, and the Talking Stick Resort and Casino in Scottsdale, just to name a few. And to clear the record, they are not constructing the Phoenix Mart. Previously, Steve was the president of CEO of Suncor. That's a $500 million company, asset-based company that was the holding company for Pinnacle West Corporation and the developer of master plan communities throughout the Mountain West, and included large-scale office, industrial, retail, and mixed uses. Along his list, a very long list of civil affiliations, he is the chairman of the Interstate 11 Coalition. And as he had said, he is leading up the Phoenix Mart National Advisory Board. And he received a law degree with honors from DePaul University. Gentlemen, if you'll come up and tell us about the Phoenix Mart. Welcome.
I've been involved in the project for about 5 years since it was an idea. And a lot of what we're trying to do is have people understand really what it is, because you hear about it out there as this big building and everybody starts to ask very quickly, well, what do you mean? And so that's really the goal of what we're here to do, give you a little sort of broad brushstroke. I mean, it will take some time, but you can never explain what this is really in one sitting, and let you know sort of why we are where we are and what the project is.
Today we're going to introduce you to Phoenix Mart, the first permanent multi-industry sourcing center in the United States. We'll cover how you'll save money with our business services program, expand to new markets, reach new customers, get e-commerce capability, and take advantage of other services. Phoenix Mart is a 2 million square foot product sourcing center where nearly 2,000 manufacturers and distributors showcase their products to buyers from the U.S. and around the world. Phoenix Mart has a representation of 6 major manufacturing and distribution categories, including home and hotel, industrial and automotive, electronics and accessories, food and beverage, office and recreation, plus fashion and variety. The world is getting smaller. Trading is no longer limited to geography. In 2011, total foreign imports to the United States exceeded $2.2 trillion. This amount represents the share of the domestic market that American manufacturers and distributors lost to international manufacturers. If we can create a better way to meet this challenge, American manufacturing will begin to regain market share. Phoenix Mart has been developed to provide American manufacturers and distributors with a solution. Today's buyers consider 4 main things when making a purchase decision: quality, convenience, service, and price. In general, American companies compete very well on quality, convenience, and service. However, too often, U.S. companies are losing out to foreign competitors because of price. By creating a way to lower cost and expand our domestic and international market exposure, we can begin to regain a portion of the lost $2.2 trillion in exports. Phoenix Mart and the leverage of nearly 2,000 manufacturers and distributors will utilize the power of numbers to reduce cost and gain exposure to new markets. At Phoenix Mart, you can benefit from our extensive marketing program, a variety of world-class services, and a cutting-edge e-commerce platform designed to help you utilize and manage your valuable resources. The Phoenix Mart Business Services Program includes a comprehensive list of services to help you reduce your costs. Phoenix Mart uses the combined buying power of almost 2,000 individual companies to negotiate discounted rates on key business services such as marketing, exhibition and trade shows, logistics and warehousing, legal, financial services, HR operations, and more. So why Casa Grande? Phoenix Mart is ideally located between Arizona's 2 largest and fastest growing cities, Phoenix and Tucson. It has strategic highway access to Interstate 10, Interstate 8, and the proposed Interstate 11 connecting Mexico to Canada. There is also the proposed inland port and a proposed free trade zone. In addition to Phoenix Mart, this 585-acre project will include hotel, retail, office, medical, industrial, multifamily, and single-family development. Additional advantages include Sky Harbor, the 6th busiest airport in the U.S., is an easy 40-minute drive from the project. The distance to Phoenix, Arizona's largest city, is 31 miles, and the distance to Tucson, Arizona's 2nd largest city, is 50 miles. We also have ideal access to the double-track Union Pacific Railroad. And by car, Interstate 10 is a direct route to Los Angeles. Interstate 8 is a direct route to San Diego. And the proposed Interstate 11, the NAFTA freeway, will one day connect Mexico through Casa Grande and Las Vegas to Canada. In addition, Phoenix Mart will host regular conventions, trade shows, and informative programs with a specific theme tailored to a variety of industries including fashion, food and beverage, home and hotel, auto, sports, education, technology, and more. Phoenix Mart has an annual marketing budget to employ both offline and online marketing. To complement our weekly exhibitions targeting buyers from North and South America, we'll advertise our events within industry trade journals, magazines, and websites. Email campaigns and social media networks will be used to keep buyers informed about the exhibition schedules and the products being showcased. Phoenix Mart will also attend a variety of major trade shows and events to promote our 6 product categories and exhibitors. Your studio space is designed to showcase your company's character and history. Each exhibitor space is approximately 600 square feet and provides a high-class, sophisticated way to showcase your unique products and capabilities. Use this space to display your company history, brands, values, product selection, and manufacturing capacity. Phoenix Mart also understands that you and your buyers may need private spaces to communicate, negotiate, and close deals. With that in mind, Phoenix Mart provides meeting rooms, video conferencing, internet access, computers, printing, fax, and more. One of the biggest values Phoenix Mart offers to its exhibitors is the ability to sell their products online at ephoenixmart.com. ephoenixmart.com is a fully functional e-commerce site that allows buyers to find and purchase products online and ensures a complete user experience. Buyers can make purchases 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, leaving you more time to build relationships and showcase your products. As a member of Phoenix Mart, you'll have enormous domestic and international market opportunities within your grasp. In order to compete, costs must stay low. In order to grow, new markets must be captured. Combine the Phoenix Mart Business Services Program, a robust marketing effort, ephoenixmart.com, and the world's only permanent multi-industry product sourcing center, and Phoenix Mart will help you do both. Thank you for attending this presentation. Please check us out at phoenixmart.com. Choose your suite today in one of our 6 specialized product centers and become part of the Phoenix Mart revolution.
You know, it's funny, every time I watch that video, I've been involved, like I said, obviously with the project for a long time, but every time I watch that video, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and at the end of it, I'm still thinking, what the heck do you mean? And so we've got another, a slideshow that we'll go through here. That the goal of it is to explain what that means, but I promise you, it will only bring up more questions, which is really what this is supposed to be for. So, at the root of it, what is Phoenix Mart, right? Well, a term that we say out there is it's a sourcing center, and for people within the U.S., it's hard to understand what a sourcing center is because we're naturally used to finding product a certain way. And the world is becoming more and more global, and it's becoming smaller, and it's harder to find product, and it's harder to find it the way that we typically find it here in the U.S. So there are models of sourcing centers that have developed throughout the world, and we have gone after some of those and evaluated them and sort of used those business models and implemented them into our project. So I'm going to talk about 2 of them and then how they apply to what we do in Phoenix Mart. And the first one is, it's actually a city in China called Yiwu. And Yiwu it was a small village, and as China opened up their doors, so to speak, for the world market, they started developing this market center. And what it was just a bunch of manufacturers that congregated in one area, and you could liken it to a farmer's market, but instead of talking about produce, you're talking about product, right? About just, manufacturing product, and things as simple as brooms. I mean, you have to put yourself into that mentality. And so that started back in 1986, and then it starts to grow into an actual city, and you can see this little red amoeba-like figure forming here, and that's where the market center congregated. By 2003, it's about 13.1 million square feet, and a city is forming around it. You can see the picture over on the right. It's got a true city forming. I mean, it's no longer a little village or a little town. It has proper infrastructure and the like, and this continues on, right? As it grows out in 2007, it now jumps to 24.5 million square feet about, and there's more and more, sort of higher density residential that develops out of it, just as any city would grow, from an organic perspective. And in 2011, now this picture obviously is 2 years old. And I actually was just in Yiwu 3 weeks ago, something like that. And it's 43 million square feet now. And if you walk through, the picture on the right is the actual main market center. And if you walk through it, it's quite significant. I mean, putting your head around what 43 million square feet is, it literally is impossible. I mean, even if you see the building, you still can't imagine that it's 43 million square feet until you start walking around it. So here's some quick stats on what EWU is. But the one that we like to point out to really give you some sort of grounding about the mass of this is if you were to spend, it's the last bullet point there, if you were to spend 2 minutes in every shop that's within this market center, and you did that for 8 hours a day, it would take you over a year just to see all of them. And that's the array of product that exists in one area. Then they took this business model, and this is a different developer, like all developers, we don't necessarily come up with a new idea. We find an idea that we like and we tweak it a little bit and we hope we improve it, and then we apply it to a new market center or a new market or whatever. And so they did that in Dubai in a project called Dragon Mart. They took the same business model essentially, but they did an entire master plan community. And I think this next slide, yeah. So this next slide is the actual master plan community. And the Dragon Mart complex, I'm not sure how well you can read that in the back, but up on the top right is the actual complex. That building, and it's shaped like a dragon, is 1.7 million square feet about. So you can get an idea of what the actual size of the entire master plan that is there. But that was essentially what I like to refer to as the pebble in the pond for the Dragon Mart master plan. And it's the Dragon Mart Market Center. And this happened a little bit faster than what happened in EWU. And so, Google Earth is wonderful, right? Because you can go and you can click on, you can go back in time and see how things develop. So if you do that, this is what happens in Dragon Mart. So in 2005, it opens, right? And you can see at opening, they're already starting to do some warehousing space right below it. And then they're just starting to do the residential components of it. And again, 1.7 million square feet, started out as what I would consider, and I'm saying this from a Dubai-centric perspective, an import center, meaning product from somewhere else being imported into that area of the world. It started out that way. Since then, there's an additional 1.6 million square feet. There's a phase 2 that's going on, warehousing that exists. It's a total of 1,900 acres, ballpark, 485 buildings, 13 districts. This is 2013. If you remember, it was 2005. 2005 to 2013, that's how fast that developed out. And that's, a decent amount of traffic. Here's Dragon Mart Phase 2. If you can remember the initial slide, that long building there is what Dragon Mart Phase 1 is. And then they're developing out what I would consider more of a retail-based mall. So this is still the same type of product, but now it's morphing like any market develops, right? From typical wholesale model to now they also do retail and stuff like that. They've got a convention hotel, there's a movie theater, parking garage, and all of that. This actually is opening here next year. So you can see sort of what happens in a market center environment whenever you're creating that that commercial development first, and then what develops out after it. The overall business model isn't foreign, right? We have trade shows that exist. We have market centers that exist here in the U.S. We don't think of them as export centers naturally because we're a consuming country. But the opportunity is certainly there. If you look at trade shows, obviously, we have a ton of them. They're industry specific. They happen in Vegas all the time, all over the place. And they are, I don't want to say they're antiquated, but they're getting to a point where if you try to go to a trade show and you don't have meetings set up before you go there, you don't really accomplish a lot. So you don't get the opportunity to see what is new out there. You have to pre-plan it. All the manufacturers that are there, all the big names, they're booked from 2 weeks before they go there till a week after they leave, and you can't just be a person off the street that's trying to make a new connection and be successful doing that in the trade show world. There's other, like I said, other merchandise marts. These are the three that we always like to point to, but there's one in LA. They're around the country. But all of these really share a common thread, and that is that they're mostly, again, what I would say import-based. Product from elsewhere being imported into a geographic area, in Atlanta, the Southeast, Dallas, the Southwest, etc. These also have, not necessarily limited, but yeah, to a degree, limited products. In other words, most of them are in home, building materials, home design, stuff like that, and then apparel and fashion industry. And so their product segments are a little bit less than what we're doing. So we took those components that we see in these market centers, what we see in projects like EWU and Dragon Mart, and what we really did was we created an integration exercise. We're not trying to invent the wheel. We're trying to take things that have already been successful, and we're putting them and making them live in the same space, so to speak. So we have this entire master plan, total of 585 acres. The main building itself, which is what you see in the middle, 1.7 million square feet. But there's an additional 4 million square feet of commercial space, and et cetera. So we have this, again, our pebble in the pond, which is this big building, so to speak, and then everything else that develops out of that we're sort of planning ahead for. Again, this is what I would consider a differentiating factor of ours. We have a broader spectrum of products that are there, and I'll read through these. I'm not sure if you can read them in the back, but these are how we categorize them. So home and hotel, industrial and automotive, electronics and accessories, food and beverage, office and recreation, and fashion and variety. And yes, those are categories, but if you think about it, essentially any product you could think of, I could probably successfully smash it into one of those categories, which is intended to be that way. Here's floor plan, and I'm going to click through these, and this is just a way to get you some visualization of what this is. Front of the building, obviously we're doing a high design building. We want it to look good, we want it to feel good, we want it to attract people to go there, so we can't skip on the way it looks. It has to have some intrigue. So this is a rendering of what the front would look like, and I'll kind of go around and give you some other views of what the facility will look like both in and out. This is one of our secondary entrances, and then the interior space. As you can see, the building itself, if you can catch this, it's essentially I'll call it a warehouse. Open air, common, HVAC, etc. And then the individual suites themselves look somewhat like, I'll say a mall storefront, meaning they're glass, and I'm trying to get a better one. You can sort of see it here. It's sort of a mall storefront, glass fronts, signage and things like that, but they're open air, so that we can build this in a I'll call it a relatively inexpensive way. Part of what the whole business model is just making business easier, and you can't very well do that if you're charging an arm and a leg for everything. So you have to be competitive and efficient with everything that you're doing. This, I believe, I'm going to flip forward through a few of these. I actually believe that this is the most important slide in explaining what Phoenix Mart is. And the reason why I say it is this: you can get a bunch of people and you can put them into a room, and that's great. And from a real estate perspective, you can look at our building and you can say, hey, you're a landlord, and that's great. But in order for people to be successful, they have to have in a very short reach all the solutions available to them to do business. And so there's this incubation concept, or whatever you want to call it, that we're overlaying upon the physical structure to make that easy. And that effect is even, or that need is even more so when you talk about crossing borders when you're doing business. Because when you're doing business, you don't believe you need a service until it's too late, or you don't know that you need a service until it's too late. And then what happens as you're going through business is you're trying to find, who do I go to find that solution? And then that takes additional time, and that makes your business inefficient. But if all of those opportunities and all those solutions are right there available to you, then you can just be an entrepreneur and do your business, and then when you have the issues, you can have them solved very quickly and efficiently. So we're including those services within the facility. These are a few bullet points of what they are. Legal, logistics and warehousing, human resources. We're going to have ongoing trade events to keep the facility, I'll call it fresh, so there's new product coming in to keep curiosity up. And then just marketing, financial services, things like that. Here's where Steve takes over because he is absolutely, I certainly consider him the expert on what Arizona can be in the future. And so I'll turn it over to him and then go from there.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. Before I start, I'm going to introduce somebody who came in a tad bit late, but our colleague and friend and the real brains of the outfit, Chin Quayle, is sort of in the back. So afterwards, if you have questions or thoughts, if you don't catch Jeremy or myself, Chin is in the back there. Let me explain. I came on board this project after 3 years of retirement, after selling my company, after selling Suncor. I was sort of fat, dumb, and happy, doing a lot of community work, chairing a lot of different groups, and I heard about this project. I think, like a lot of us, we all had been hearing about it for several years, and hearing a lot of different mixed things about it. And several people had approached me about it, giving me a little different message, as you've sort of heard from Jeremy, which intrigued me. And a lot of it had to do with the work I'd been doing with the ACA, with the Arizona Commerce Authority, through the governor's office, a new group that had been formed called the TTCA, the Transportation and Trade Corridor Alliance, where we're looking at how we connect this state from an industry and trade and sort of manufacturing standpoint. And it's really interesting what's going on sort of nationally. I think all of you might recall a couple of years ago, the president made this sort of declaration that this country, he wants the country to double our exports over the next 5 years. And so we've got sort of the federal government looking at how do we increase our exporting, how do we get the country back into manufacturing and back into exporting that manufacturing. Because we have, let's be honest, we've gotten a little bit lazy as a country. We make great goods. We actually manufacture some great stuff, but we sell to ourselves because we've had one of the greatest consumer markets in the world. And so we haven't had to export. Other than, obviously, we've got Apple and Nike, and we've got some big guys who do great at it. But a lot of our small guys are in small towns spread out throughout this country. I use the example of Airstream trailers, because I actually own an Airstream. I love Airstream trailers. And they're in a small town in Ohio. And they don't export because they don't have to, because they've been in business for 75 years, and they've got more market, they know what to do in the U.S. But there's lots of companies like that throughout this country that need to get in the game now, need to get in because, as Jeremy put it, the world has gotten smaller. I got fascinated by this business model, and I believe in this business model of Phoenix Mart. And in my business life over the last 30 years, I've become to believe in what sort of Jeremy said about stealing other people's ideas. I believe that the past tends to reflect the future when it comes to business, that you can look at good business models, good business ideas, and you can start to bring them into different markets. And this whole idea of the success of Iwu, the success of Dragon Mart, what I think a lot of people are referring to now as the idea of collective marketing, where bringing products to one location to make it easier for buyers, to make it easier for those buyers to come and find our products, so they don't have to crisscross our countries. They don't have to go to all these small towns in Missouri and Ohio and Mississippi to find the products. They can come to one place. It's brilliant. It's a great idea. And nobody's done it in North America before, other than a few of these trade show examples and a few of these sort of regional marts that do specialized products, and you have to have a buyer's card to get in, or some kind of designer's card. So I got fascinated by the concept. I got on board to sort of help them kind of get going. I'm still going to be involved as a board member. But this is the other reason I'm really excited about it, that I'm going to go through now. And that's this concept of us as a region, as a Sun Corridor. And as I think a lot of you know, although I'm based up in Phoenix, I've spent a lot of time down in southern Arizona throughout my career, and I've never thought of Phoenix versus Tucson. I've always thought of us as one and the same. And we've had this concept of the Sun Corridor for a long time. And where did it come from? It actually originally came from the Brookings Institution. Came out with this concept of these megapolitan regions throughout the country, whereas these metropolitan areas are starting to sort of merge together. Just like, you look at LA and you look at San Diego, they're kind of one big metropolitan area now. Well, we're growing together as a metropolitan area between Phoenix and Tucson. And Brookings, this was almost 10 years ago now, recognized that we're growing together as sort of this Sun Corridor, and we're recognized as one of those down in the Southwest. And so when this concept of Phoenix Mart was looking around the country at where to locate, By the way, fascinating little observation. It was going to be Phoenix Mart, whether it was located in New Jersey or Atlanta or Houston. What they were looking for is good commerce connectivity to the world. They were looking for a good airport, good rail, good freight access, good commerce, and a good business climate, right? So it could have been Phoenix Mart, New Jersey, because the phoenix is the bird rising from the ashes. It was going to be Phoenix Mart, New Jersey. So I say that to Greg Stanton, the mayor of Phoenix, who's a good friend of mine. He gets all upset about that. No, Phoenix Mart's the city of Phoenix. I said, no, it was going to be Phoenix Mart no matter where it was going to be. So going through this, so these are the metropolitan areas, and they looked at a number of them and chose our metropolitan region, our megapolitan region. That includes all these areas. Okay. So why the Sun Corridor? And we all know this, top 10 economic growth, job creation, highest population growth kind of numbers, real estate market. It's this last one, though, that we forget about a lot when we're talking about ourselves as the Sun Corridor, which is the business operations. And we talk about that a lot at ACA as we're now starting to catch companies coming over from California, is that we are just a much more business-friendly jurisdiction than a lot of other states, particularly that big jurisdiction to the west. And that's, you might say, why didn't Phoenix Mart locate, because it's much closer to ports in LA and Long Beach and would have been much easier. There's great airports over there. California is not a great place to do business in, and this is a much better sort of location for that. This is the heart of the Sun Corridor. And there's been lots of discussions about the Sun Corridor and how it's going to grow and how it's going to develop. To me personally, it would be a disappointment if the Sun Corridor was connected just by a sea of rooftops, of residential rooftops. And so there's always been a discussion of how do you have job-housing balance in the heart of the Sun Corridor. If you look now at the Sun Corridor and you look at what's going to locate there, and these I know are a little hard to see, but if you look at where the projected population growth and your projected job growth in those areas, this is truly in the heart of that, of where the population is going to go, how Phoenix and Tucson are going to grow together, how the jobs are going to grow together. And a lot of that, again, is that commerce connectivity. It's growing off of those highways, off of the rail connections, off of those natural commerce connections that are going to bring jobs to those areas. And you saw this a little bit in the video. I chair this I-11 coalition that's working to bring an interstate, an intermountain NAFTA freeway to connect us north and south. We've got good east-west freeways with I-8, with I-10, with I-40. What we don't have is a good north-south. And so we're working hard on that. We've been working on it now for 6 years. We've got real traction now. But that was a real driver in their selection choice of putting this in the heart of the Sun Corridor, is that there's also discussions of an inland port. There's discussions of a deep water port down in Guaymas, which would help to bring trade up. And don't forget about the ability to nearshore products down into Mexico and bring products up, which again helps benefit what's going on down here in southern Arizona. So NAFTA freeway, Union Pacific double track, the I-8, I-10 corridor, the international inland port discussions that's been going on, and the like. The distance. A lot of people up in Phoenix have sort of blanched. Why didn't this locate, if you wanted connection to the airport, to Sky Harbor, if you wanted connection to Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport for air freight, if you wanted connection to I-10, then why not? Frankly, it's easier to get to Sky Harbor Airport from this site than it is from anywhere else up in Phoenix, because it's easier to come up to the airport from the south than it is to come through the traffic of Phoenix. And so there's a real ease of connectivity. We're only 40 minutes from either airport, from either the freight airport of Mesa Phoenix Gateway, which is ultimately going to be a freight airport, or up to the transportation airport of Phoenix International Airport. And frankly, it allows for nice connectivity then down into the Tucson market. And so, again, being in the heart of that Sun Corridor, having connection to I-8, I-10, east-west, but also having connection to the two major metropolitan areas. And again, this kind of gives you the 40 minutes drive time to all these opportunities. So where is it located? As we all go up I-10, you know where the regional mall is there. It's right behind the regional mall. It's just to the east of the regional mall out the highway.
Whenever we first started, we had an impact study done because that's what you do, right? The job creation number that you see here, so I'm going to point out two numbers, and it's the 7,905 and then the 9,848. So when we first did a study, we were including what's going to happen essentially in the Arizona area. What is our job impact? And this number, and this is something I'd like to point out. You know, our job impact is expected to be 7,905, which is significant, obviously. Compare that to what Pinal County's employment force is, and it's about 80,000. You know, this is that stat is a few years old, right? So somewhere in that ballpark. So we're affecting that employment force by a factor of 10%. That means something because there is no way that county can support the employment that's going to be necessary for this project. So we're going to be pulling from other markets, Tucson, you know, the north part of Tucson, I'm sure, and the south part of Phoenix typically, just because that's naturally how things work out. But the other thing here is that job number also doesn't include, like what most developers highlight, that doesn't include the direct construction jobs. And so there's additional impacts here that we aren't even talking about. And frankly, we're extremely proud of these numbers. I mean, we think it's a great opportunity, and you know, everybody's happy about creating jobs. But then we did another study because we started seeing that we're impacting outside of the state. Because if we're increasing exports, we aren't telling everybody to bring your entire factory here. This is simply a show place where they're going to display their product. They're still going to fulfill from wherever they are from. Yes, long term, do we want to pull those people here and have, you know, final assembly going on and stuff like that as their business, you know, continues to expand? Of course, you know, that's always the goal. But we don't have to do that out of the gate. But we were curious what that would mean if you go back to, you know, a factory back in Ohio or something like that. And so we had another study commissioned, and we essentially added about 2,000 jobs. So that's how we got to that 9848 number. In other words, those are jobs that are created back in factories in other parts of the country. So that's obviously something that is, you know, we're extremely proud of. Here, I'm just going to flip through some pictures here. I might explain a little bit about them, but it's just a way to get you to visualize and understand what it looks like. This is one of our, I'll call it a town center, we're calling it. So there's these individual or 6 different categories. They each have a town center so that people, I'll call it, can decompress. You know, if you're walking through, you know, aisles of product everywhere, it can be somewhat, you know, overstimulation, and you have to have areas where you can decompress. So we have some open space and things like that. You know, again, this is one of the exterior entrances. And same thing, so you can get an idea of what we're doing from an architectural perspective. This would be sort of a main street, so you can see it's relatively wide. I mean, you know, this isn't one of the hallways, which are still relatively wide. This is what we're calling. I think we're calling it Main Street. It's either Main Street or Central Avenue. I forget what our current iteration of it is, but you know, just a nice big walkway. To be able to walk through it and have a spot where you can decompress a little bit. You know, more interior pictures gives you an idea of sort of the construction and how things are laid out, exterior and things like that. I'm going to keep clicking. So, where are we now and what are we doing? So, you know, as Jim mentioned, we broke ground last week, but I know I'm in a group of real estate people. But this isn't a real estate project. Yes, it's a real estate project. It's a big building. Great, that's fine. And you know, I'm not going to necessarily diminish that. But this is an economic development project. And it takes a lot of people to make something like that work. You know, you can, like I said before, you can build a big building and you can put people in that building, but whether or not they're successful is dependent upon a lot of other factors. And that is who is helping them out. So we are actually now looking for, I'll call them service partners. Who are the people that are going to be located in the building that aren't selling product, but that are helping people deal with issues whenever you're doing business internationally or domestically to other parts of the U.S. How do we make doing business easy? So that's the stuff that we're looking for. And then sponsors, you know, I'm saying that from a building perspective. In other words, we're building a big building, and we want it to showcase what we can do here, and who are the sponsors that, you know, are going to do the bathrooms, and I use that example because we're already talking to people in that realm, but who are going to build out the bathrooms to show what they can do, and then things like that, so name sponsors. So we're really focused on things like that right now, and like I said, I think that determines the success of the project. When people are here, how easy is it for them to do business? I think that's the end, yes?
Well, do one more thing, and then I want to do one more thing.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about development opportunities around the project and what it might spin off, and then I want to talk.
About 5-7 minutes, and we'll open up for Q&A.
Right.
Got it, okay.
And then I want to talk a little bit about another impact aspect.
Okay. So I'm trying to flip back to get the quick site plan to make it a little bit easier, but I'll use that one. Okay, so again, our pebble in the pond, Phoenix Mart, the building. Whenever we're talking about the businesses and everything that we're talking about service-wise and stuff like that, we're only talking about the building. So we have this entire master plan. We've got other warehousing opportunities that you can see over on the right. So those are larger warehouses. Again, this is not a distribution center. In other words, product is not going into this building and being shipped out. This is a show place. That's all it is. So we have additional opportunities for warehousing and things like that. Obviously, you have a bunch of people coming someplace. They need to stay. They have to have hotels. We have 2 hotel sites currently planned on the site, multifamily, office, things like that. We're actually right now seriously and aggressively looking for those 2 things, apartment and hotel partners. When this is built and there are people coming here, those things need to be there early on to make sure that the services are available to the people that are visiting. So.
Great. So just briefly, I want to sort of talk a little bit about sort of the big picture impact of this on you, because I'm part of this real estate industry too, and Shannon, my company, we build all over the country, but we're really coming back home a lot. We're going to be looking to develop a lot more in Arizona and build a lot more here. And how I look at this, though, is as an economic catalyst for the whole Sun Corridor, for this whole region. And you got to, again, look at what's happened in Ewu. You got to look at what's happened in Dragonmart. You have to look at the spin-off effect of this. And Jeremy put it right. It's not that this is a warehousing facility. It's not that it's a wholesaling where people are taking goods out. It's a showroom. And companies, we're going to have over 2,000 companies showcasing their products in this facility. They're going to be coming from all over the country to showcase their products. And they're going to be coming to Arizona to showcase. And so they're going to be having essentially a little outpost here. But we have the opportunity to showcase our community to those companies. So those companies may say, gee, I kind of like it out here. What am I doing up in Minnesota when I can be here instead? And so we have the opportunity to sort of pitch those companies when they're out here and maybe have a second manufacturing plant here or advance some of their product out here. So as they are showcasing their product in this building, instead of having it shipped from their plant in Minnesota, they might advance some of their product. So we may have some more distribution facilities around here. And they don't have to be right on this. They can be anywhere in this market, up in the Phoenix market, anywhere in the Sun Corridor. As these manufacturers get bigger, they may want to have some plants anywhere around the Sun Corridor. They may want to do something down in Mexico. Again, we're looking at those kinds of relationships. We hope that this becomes an economic catalyst where it just creates economic activity. But it's all about the jobs. It was those jobs numbers that Jeremy talked about that I get excited about. It's creating jobs in the heart of the Sun Corridor. It's creating jobs in this entire marketplace. And were any of you at the ULI conference up in Chicago last week at all? No? Okay. So the thing that I like most about the fall ULI meetings is that they come out with this emerging trends report. I don't know how much you all know about ULI. It's kind of the gold standard of the building development industry. It's all the big guys, all the equity players, all the debt players, all the big investors from around the country, around the world are there. And in anticipation of putting out this report, they interview over 1,000. Statistically, they kind of break it up into different categories of people they want to interview. And they go face-to-face interview with all these different players. And when I was CEO of Suncor, I was one of the interviewees for several of these reports. And they talk to you about different markets in the country and whether you're willing to go into different markets, whether you're willing to invest, whether you're willing to develop in different countries, different markets in the country, why, and they really dig down deep into different markets. Last year's report, 2013 report, we were redlined. essentially. I mean, bottom line, we were redlining. Both Phoenix and Tucson. We were down at the bottom of the 51 markets that were looked at in the trends report. It was bad, you know, and we have to look at ourselves and recognize our job numbers were bad. Our, you know, everything about. So both on the investment side and on the development side, we were in the red category in both Phoenix and Tucson. This report just came out on Friday, and I left copies there if you want to kind of take a look at it. The Phoenix market jumped 16 points. So the Phoenix market is now up at number 25, smack dab in the middle. Huge improvement, okay? And it's actually in the green category for investment. So it's actually now, not only did the red line come off, so it went to yellow, but it actually jumped from red to green. And investors, and we're seeing that up in that market, where investors from around the country, around the world, are actually looking at investment opportunities. And development actually went from red to yellow. So they're actually looking at development opportunities in different segments, and it breaks down into different segments in this report. Tucson, unfortunately, stayed exactly where it was. 44, stayed at 44 out of 51. Not particularly great, right? That's not where you want to be in the commercial markets looked at from around the country, around the world, right? But again, that's why I go back to the Sun Corridor idea. Don't think of them as separate markets. And a lot of us talk to folks about that at these meetings, about the fact, don't look at Phoenix, Tucson, look at the Sun Corridor as one. Look at this project as an opportunity to kind of merge these markets together and look at this as all one market for discussion purposes, and how we create jobs in an entire marketplace, and how all of these projects kind of interrelate. So I encourage you to just, what I did is I just copied that one page, because that's the most important chart that comes out of this report, and go from there. So we'd be happy to take any questions.
Just in case people couldn't hear him, his question is one of timing, you know, when's it going to be constructed? The building itself, so which is the one that we're doing. In other words, except for the building, we're essentially a land developer. So the building itself will be first part 2015 open. Our goal with what we'd like to do for the rest of the development is we, like I said before, would love to see a hotel, you know, select service type hotel, ideally opening right about the same time, and same thing on at least one multifamily project. At this point, we aren't doing that. We may, actually, to be perfectly honest, but we haven't made a decision on that. So those are the ones that we're looking at, and then we also are right now working with a few people on the warehousing stuff that you see on the right, not the stuff all the way at the top, but the stuff on the right that potentially could come and be open right about that same time. But that's all that we're looking at. I'll say driving and not sort of reacting to as a normal land developer would. Sure. So question is relating to leasing. How are we doing? We've been so. First of all, let me back up a little bit again on what this looks like. If you and I sort of have to paint a picture, and hopefully I'll do it very quickly. If you look at China and these markets in China and why they're successful because if you want to find product in China without them, it's hard. In other words, it's a big country. You don't know where to go. You don't know where to find things. And we typically within the U.S. we don't think that way because we've naturally become this consumer culture, right? Well, the question is why? You know, we can produce. We've done it in the past. You know, why do we need to think that way? And so putting the U.S. manufacturers in this and all in one place is actually there's a huge demand for that globally. People don't know they have the same issue that if you put yourself into U.S. mentality, the same issue with when you're trying to find product in China. People throughout the world have the same problem trying to find product in the U.S. We don't make it easy for that. We really don't. But for this project to work right, we believe that we have to have both import and export going on. So it has to be a two-way street. It can't just be export, and it can't just be import. It has to be both. So our product mix is, or tenant mix I'll call it, is 2/3 U.S. based and 1/3 international. So we've already done some international stuff, and we're I'd say relatively successful there. And to be perfectly honest, if we wanted to, we could just be done with that third. But the more we get on the U.S., the better. And what's interesting now is we're getting a lot of interest from Mexico and Canada, which we theorized, but we didn't expect. I'll say. I mean, you always like to think, yeah, it'd be great if we could have this whole North American center, and we even talked about it that way. but I didn't realize the amount of response that we would get. So, cutting to the chase though, we didn't start our leasing efforts on a domestic side really until last week when we did our groundbreaking. We did some upfront phone calls before that, and we already have, I mean, we're talking to the Middle East, we already have LOIs that are being signed now. We have verbal commitments of, it's not, a significant number of people. We're not talking, 200 yet or anything like that. And we're working out actual details on people that are included in sponsors and their tenants. And the only way that I can phrase it is, I don't see us having any issue within the next year being significantly filled. Number one, potentially completely filled. And we'll start, because of how we're working through our PR campaign, you'll start hearing names within the next month. So we aren't saying names, we aren't saying stats. All I can do is give you a feeling of what the back and forth is that we're having.
In the film, on the Dragon Center in Dubai, it said at the bottom, tenants mainly from China. What does that mean?
Well, so in Dubai, the initial business model in Dubai was what I'll call import-based. When I say that, I'm saying that from the perspective of Dubai, meaning product from somewhere else coming into Dubai. And most of those tenants, whenever it started, were from China. What's interesting, and I usually point this out, and I was trying to fly through the slideshow quickly, but what's interesting is now that's changing. So if you go there now, yes, you still have product from China. Let's face it, there's a lot of things produced in China. So anywhere you go where there's product, you're going to see something there. But there's a lot of product from the Middle East, from India. When I was there almost exactly a year ago now, actually a little over a year ago, and I didn't see really much. There was a little bit from South America, but you kind of had Asia, the Middle East, and down into some parts of Africa that were represented there, by that time.
What do you say is the most immediate opportunities for Tucson, say in the next 1 to 2 years? Is it support services? What areas?
So two things. Yes, 100% support services. I mean, by far and away, think of you're having over 2,000 different businesses / brands here that all need help. And we say numbers all the time, but it's hard to picture what that number means. Walk into an office building here and see if you can count 2,000 names on the office building directory. You're not going to. So the opportunity for what those business services are is hugely significant. The other thing is there are pure development opportunities in and around the area. You're bringing a population in that's significant, you're bringing in jobs that are significant, and when you relate them to what currently exists in that area, it's very obvious to see that there's a gap. Like I said before, 7,900 jobs is essentially 10% of the entire workforce there. Relate that into the housing that exists there. I guarantee you there is not enough housing. I guarantee you there are not enough employees there to fulfill this. So those are the things that I would point out. I'll compartmentalize something in the real estate world. I think that there are warehousing opportunities that are available, and not just because of this project. You see stuff going in California, people from California wanting to relocate. Again, we have a great business climate. We got to embrace that. So I think if I were to say a sector, I like that sector.
Question, really two questions. One is about the entitlements now to do this, where are you at on that? The second thing is how is this, and I don't know if this is more retail or wholesale or what it is, but how does it compete or how is it any different than a full-time manufactured trade show or something of that nature? You can just kind of...
Sure, so timeline-wise, we'll be fully permanent with all our entitlements. February is what it looks like now. A few back and forth review comments from the city, but it should be February.
Put all the zonings in place.
Yeah. Zoning's in place. I'm talking building permits to be able to go vertical, right? What was it? Oh, how does it differentiate from a full-time manufacturing trade show? It sort of doesn't, because that's what it is. This is manufacturing and distribution based. But the things that we believe are differentiating factors are just the pure array of product selection, meaning by industry type. A lot of things that you go to are specific to industries, even permanent ones, right? So the pure array of product selection, number one. And number two, it's not just export based and it's not just import based, it's both. And if you look at people that are in those businesses, they all want to do more business. And that's again where I point to the services and how necessary they are. You have to create the environment where those people that want to do business have the opportunity to see the new opportunity, the new business opportunity, but not only that, be able to capitalize on it because all the resources are there and available. So that's what I think really differentiates us.
The quality of this facility is sweet, sir.
Yeah, I would say the other thing, just from a design perspective, yes, it's not, we have glass storefronts. Obviously you saw pictures of the design itself. We're proud of the way the building looks.
What are the equity sources and how committed is the EB5 portion?
So we have, without going into specific numbers, we have equity sources that are domestic, from initially starting the company and then as part of our capital stack. And then the other one that everybody hears about is the EB5 program. How much time?
We've got about 5 minutes, stop.
Okay, so I certainly cannot explain the EB5 program in 5 minutes. But, so we have a portion of our capital stack is from the EB5 program. We're oversubscribed. So,
with 600 square foot spaces, are all the tenants going to have a managed space with a physical presence, or do you anticipate some of them doing it remotely via Skype or something like that?
as far as manning their actual spaces, so within our lease agreement, you're physically required to have people on site. It doesn't have to be the business owner; they can hire someone here, which typically that's usually the way it works, right? But they have to be open for business. That's another thing that we're requiring because we think that's different. If you walk through Chicago or Dallas, a lot of times some of them are closed. They use it as a show place, but they're doing their business then. Oh, when they have a client, they bring them there. This is open for business all the time.
Yeah, James, I haven't done a loan in Casa Grande in about 10 years, so I'm not really paying attention. I will now. Where's the closest Walmart?
So everything in Casa Grande is on Florence. So it's on Florence. It's 6 miles, maybe.
Sam's Club under construction.
Yeah. So Sam's Club. If you look at the location in general and what's going on in Casa Grande, and if you look at the intersection of I-10 and Florence Boulevard, that's where you see the majority of the activity right now. I do want to thank you all for having us. We're not that great because we've been so busy, head down, just doing work about getting out and letting people understand what this is. We are trying to do that more. At the same time, I can tell you I'm about 2 weeks behind in emails, but we're still trying to get that out. So we welcome everybody's involvement.
Yeah, thank you. And get a hold of one of us if you have any questions or any follow-up. We'll get you to the right person. Jeremy's got it, and Gigi they have a great team, and anyone that has any interest in either, if you have a client that's interested in being in the facility, Jeremy didn't talk about the economics, but to have a permanent trade show space, to have a permanent suite where you can showcase your product to almost 500,000 buyers from around the country, around the world, starting at something like $20,000 a year. It's an amazing economic model, and that's what got me excited about it. It's not a big number for somebody to get a space in this building. And as Jeremy's sales and leasing and marketing people are starting to get out and talk to people around the country, they go, really? I can get, for that kind of number, I can get a space in this building? That's what gets them excited about it. And so if you know somebody that may be interested, if you have a good manufacturer that you represent, talk to us, talk to Jeremy, send somebody a note. We'll get you out to the right folks to talk about it. And if you have somebody that may be interested in participating in the building as a building sponsor, let us know on that. Or around in the surrounding development, let us know.